Today we are with Emily Burkhart and Eric Terrell at Euclid Middle School, and this is their 7th grade science PLC. They're going to talk about data and how it informs their PLC and their next steps of instruction.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so what do you guys have in front of you today?
So we kind of started our year with the goal, a literacy goal of helping students understand informational text. So throughout the year, we've been using engineered text and using some of the amplified text that we have. We created a rubric to help them with understanding that informational text. So we did 4 different examples readings, and throughout the year we realized that one of the things that they could use the most support on or with was identifying main ideas. So Emily created pretty amazing activity that we kind of worked through, that she kind of spearheaded in terms of having students read and jigsaw several different articles, and then pulling main ideas and quotes that support those main ideas from each reading, and then they would share those 3 different readings within a small group.
Yeah, and the shrinking notes came from Eric's former teaching partner, Maddie. But what we essentially learned was that by having students summarize their notes, often from their annotations, go back and look at what you annotated and say, oh, this is what I read, and then shrink it, cut it in half. How can I really pull out the key ideas that then a 3rd shrink leads them directly to their main idea? So we've been practicing this as like a secondary skill for them, as a note-taking technique. We've done this now 3 times, and I know through our data, my computer of course turned off, but we have really seen through really targeted text-dependent questions around things like author's purpose, central idea, that we are really seeing an increase in students' data and ability to answer these kinds of CMAS adjacent questions. We have really felt really strongly that knowing that the entire 2nd section of CMAS is the informational text and literacy, and that our amplify units are these huge bulky texts, that we needed to really help them dissect them better and give them those skills, realizing they don't necessarily have the skills to metacognate, and that they will ask like, well, how many do I need? And it's like, well, how many thoughts do you have? And so we've really seen quite an improvement.
How do you track your data?
Yeah, so we have our rubrics. So we each have our own data table, and over the course of the year, we have the student and the period and then their baseline before we even introduce this rubric. And then we were able to see, okay, I'm seeing some improvement, and then there were other students where I saw dips, and that is where Eric and I at the end of 1st semester essentially were like, why are we seeing some kids dipping? And that's when we really noticed it was the main idea where they were not getting, they were still developing and not proficient. And that's how we figured out we should do this more directly, right?
Yeah, and some of the other things we talked about is like, what are the text structures within these informational texts? They have a certain formula about the introduction, drawing readers in, and we talk about like first paragraph, last paragraph, and first sentence, last sentence, and how much there's so much information within the captions and pictures that often relate to. We talk about, hey, when the same message or the same idea keeps being repeated, that is the main idea. When you see it over and over again, and when you're annotating, you're like, oh, I've read the same similar idea. That's just more evidence, and that's kind of came back to this idea of like, hey, what is the quote from the reading? How does that relate to the main idea? And then how does it support it? So I think what we want to do after spring break is based on, now that we've done this a 2nd time, we thought it would be a good way to kind of incorporate into our summative assessment for this photosynthesis matter and energy unit, with giving them a small, well, actually you had shared, what was your thinking on that?
We have so many auxiliary texts that we don't get to from Amplify. So there's one about a silkworm and a mulberry bush, and so giving them that text and then having them, telling them, or even maybe making a fill in the blank like box set of do this skill on the test, and then give them 4 really targeted text dependent questions about central idea, main idea, author's purpose, what does this word mean in this context, to really assess again, along with this data that we had from our previous text dependent questions where we had kind of low proficiency. We were probably like 2.5, maybe 3 for about half the grade. So wanting to get them to proficient, hopefully before April 8th, as many as possible.
And using some of those sentence stems and
Yes, that's right.
some of those vocabulary that we know should be in those for students, with accommodations for students would
Yep.
help them with that piece as well.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing how you guys are using data to plan and be responsive in your instruction.
Yep.
And hopefully you'll see the results on CMAS.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.